Welcome again to the lecture on ADR under international law. We were talking about negotiations, and please note that negotiation is considered as one of the most viable, convenient options for dispute settlement. And it's like the settlement of the dispute by the parties themselves without any interruption or interference or involvement of third parties. So that's why it is considered under certain circumstances the most viable option for dispute settlement for reasons like it provides flexibility. So there is no time limit to end the negotiations. There is no compulsion for the party to sit at every, let's say, Wednesday or Thursday. They can sit anytime, anywhere. They can discuss about any aspects of the negotiations, and then they can come to a conclusion. They don't need to follow a certain law which will compel them to follow the negotiation outcome. But one thing is very important to note here that parties cannot take or end up into a negotiations. Cannot conclude a negotiations which is in violation of peremptory norms, and that's very serious. Because when I say negotiation is flexible and parties can adopt negotiation on anything, there are limitations always, because if two countries today comes to a negotiation and enters into an agreement that they will start trading slaves. Slavery, was a form of a trade during medieval and even just some 100 years back, where human is being sold by human to some other human. And from that line of arguments, the points are very clear here today that negotiation provides the best mechanisms for settling the disputes. It only concerns the states involved. The non-involvement of third party usually helps the parties themselves to understand each other and to come to any conclusion. It empowers the parties to follow the desired process and better outcomes. This is what, in general, the negotiation provides. Negotiation actually gives the party freedom of how to settle the disputes. But the problem with respect to negotiation is that when uh, it is not the balance of power. If the negotiation happens between two parties, one of which is extremely influential, having global power, and the other one is very a small state in terms of its political and power and economy. So then there are always possibilities of the stronger will influence over the weaker one. So that difficulty lies there. Uh, so it depends on the parties who are entering the negotiation. Moving ahead, if you look at Article 283 of UNCLOS, it says that the disputed parties in contact and request them to exchange views at any stage of the disputes and eventually to implement the final dispute. So parties are at liberty to continue with their decisions. So my suggestion at this point would be for you to look into the dynamics of negotiations, how it is advantageous to the states in settling their international disputes, how negotiation can be a ramification for the countries who are not of that politically or economically powerful, and does it always provide a certain outcomes, because what we see as advantage might be a disadvantage. For example, in the arbitration, if you go at international level, the arbitral award, when is provided or delivered, then the parties are bound to follow it. On the other hand, if negotiation continues for 20, 30, 40 years and one of the parties not willing to enter into it, then it doesn't help. The India-Pakistan talk on different issues, the Palestine talk, issue-related talk. I mean, if Palestine PLO talks with its neighboring states for some solutions. Now, if third party is involved, then it will not remain anymore as negotiation. So these are the dynamics I think one can investigate. The second one is inquiry or fact finding. Parties to the dispute may initiate a common commission of inquiry or fact finding for the purpose followings. Number one, to verify whether the infraction was committed, certain violations, certain economic losses, and others. To ascertain what obligations and treaties may have been violated, and thirdly, to suggest remedies or actions to be undertaken by the parties. So these are the reasons, purposes for which an inquiry or fact-finding commission is formed. A commission of inquiry may usefully be employed in parallel with other methods of dispute resolutions, as enunciated in Article 33 of the UN Charter, in order to get the factual aspects of the dispute resolution. So it might happen that there is a dispute pending before the ICJ, and it requires involvement of huge amount of money. So there can be a fact-finding or inquiry commission formed to ascertain what could be the probable distribution of that money. So that must be followed through negotiation. The court itself cannot go for that. So a commission that must be done through inquiry or fact-finding. There are examples that in 1991, the UN General Assembly adopted Resolution 46 by 1459, which contained detailed rules for fact-finding by organs of the United Nations. So, I mean, there are mechanisms for fact-finding. Moving ahead, the third one is good office or mediation. First one was negotiation, then inquiry, then mediation. Mediation is generally conducted by appointing third states, international or regional organizations, or even sometimes by eminent individuals who has acceptability among the global communities. It refers to the offer by a third party of its good offices to the parties to a dispute in the interest of seeking a resolution and preventing the spread of conflict. The function of the mediator is to encourage parties to undertake or resume negotiations. The mediator shall also offer proposals to help the parties identify a mutually acceptable outcomes. Example of successful mediation by a state usually are by great powers due to their resources and weight, but at the same time follow their own interests. So what happens is that at international level, if you look at the mediation, when states does the mediation, it's two types of states are involved. One, the states who have acceptability, neutral states like Scandinavian countries, Switzerland, they project themselves as neutral nations. On the other hand, it has been experienced that some powerful nations also takes their involvement in the process of negotiations, in the process of mediation. For example, in 1966 conflict between India and Pakistan, USSR, which is now Russia, was involved in the mediation process. Again, there are several instances during the Arab-Israel war when you see United States was involved in and it's still involved on different occasions. But that's a classic example of mediation where US involved between Arabs and Israel, particularly US involvement with respect to Israel and PLO. PLO means Palestine Liberation Organization, and that was, as Palestine is not a state equal to other states, but in order to function, it's on behalf of its people at the international forum. PLO has been given a certain status. So this is a very interesting part of the understandings. But yes, for our purpose, I think we need to be clear about the mediation, that it can be done by states, by international organizations or regional organizations, and sometimes by eminent individuals. As per the neutral states involvement is concerned, as I said, Scandinavian and Switzerland, there are examples that Switzerland was acting as a neutral power, as mediators between US and Cuba during the missile crisis period. And even if you follow the recent Yemen conflict between Houthis and Yemeni government, Yemeni government being supported by Saudi allied nations, Saudi Arab Emirat, Kuwait, Bahrain. On the other hand, Houthis in Yemen, who have been supported by Iran. There has been several ties negotiations where mediation was offered by Sweden. I think it was Sweden. So they tried level best to come to a certain agreement, sort of. So it happens by the neutral states. So we would like to conclude here this part, and in the next part we will continue discussing about other means and methods of discussion. Thank you.